Hello?
Hello, welcome to the 11th episode of the Pan-African excuse me. This is the 11th episode of the Pan-African Leadership Center. My name is Nyasha, and I would like to introduce you to a guest that we're going to be speaking to today.
Are you there?
His name is Professor.
Hello? Hello?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'll start by introducing you. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I wanted to find out if you could actually just give us a little bit of an introduction, if that's okay, because I saw this impressive bio and it was so hard to pinpoint. Of course, now I know you're in Pretoria and you are heading the research department and at the University of Tshwane. And you are well professed, well read, you have traveled,
Yes.
you are sitting on boards all over the world. And the biggest thing for me is you are pushing the advancement and development in Africa. Our topic today is constructing Pan-African governance. And I wanted you to just sort of describe yourself and what you are doing at the moment and what led you to this specific topic.
Network. Your voice is breaking.
Professor, I was saying, could you possibly introduce us? Introduce yourself and tell us how you arrived at constructing Pan-African governance, that topic. Can you hear me, Professor?
Thank you. Thank you very much, my young, I think I should call you my daughter, Nyasha Kuzinya. um, you, okay, all right, I will. Yes. I think the introduction for me is just simply that I have been a Pan-African for almost now 52 years. And I started in America when I was a student at Columbia University. And we organized something called Student Organization for Black Unity. And we tried to get African Americans who have been excluded in the Ivy League universities to join Ivy League universities. So we did. So we have been really struggling all our lives about how to make sure that the misinformation narrative about Africans as if we don't create anything, we don't create any knowledge. All this, I have been struggling to show them that actually we have created almost everything. We have created the knowledge heritage of ours is very rich. The spiritual heritage is also rich. The struggle also to resist all the oppressions against us has been rich. So I have been struggling and I have been writing and thinking. In fact, recently I have been also teaching doctoral students to do on Pan-Africanism and also on governance and democracy, how to change the African landscape, the political, the system and the governance, the institution, the leadership challenges in Africa. So I've been working on that very systematically. So I'll be very happy that we discuss today what does it mean to what's governance and how do we in Africa have been suffering from bad governance. If we want to bring good governance and governance to serve our people and Africa, what should we do to do? What are the things we need to do? So I'll be happy to interact with you. I did prepare something, but if you want me, I can just present a little bit that, and then after that you can ask me questions. If you otherwise you can we can start debating also.
Okay, thank you. Debating.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor. If you have something presented, that's fine. I initially just wanted us to introduce the topic, which you have done. Thank you, but I wanted us to just for the viewers that aren't well inclined with these terms, Pan-Africanism, to just get into what is Pan-Africanism. My understanding is we're talking about solidarity, unity, the unionism on the continent, and the people in the diaspora, people of African descent, Ubuntu. That's what we understand by Pan-Africanism. So, how do we combine the two, Pan-Africanism and governance?
Mhm, mhm. Very good. Uh, if you want me to answer, I can do that, but at the same time, maybe give you a little bit more about from the
Yes,
presentation I
please.
prepared, and then I'll come back to
Yes,
this
please.
point you
Thank
raised.
you.
It's a very
Thank you very
important.
much.
So let me try to do that. So what I did was constructing Pan-African governance, the United States of Africa today, 21. I start with inspiration and what is governance, what are the different governances, what's the governance challenge Africa faces, what is governance for justice to Africa, what's Pan-African governance, and what is also elect, e-governance, meaning now digital time has come. Is there any chance also with digital technology we can change governance? So I have some ideas like that. Governance in general encompasses the system by which an organization is controlled and operates, and the mechanisms by which it and its people are held to account. Ethics, risk management, compliance, and administration are all elements of governance. Governance is a term for the way a group of people, such as a country, do things. Many groups create a government to decide how things are to be done. Governance is also how government decision making affects people in in Africa, for example. Public servants should be focused on serving the public, not doing governance to serve themselves. So not any special interest group, and good governance should be an expectation, not an exception. All good governance should be there, but in Africa, it's an exception. Rarely do you find good governance. Most governors are not good, and they are generally also externally manipulated by the former colonial powers. Strong government doesn't mean simply military power or an efficient intelligence apparatus. Instead, it should mean effective, fair administration. That is what is good governance. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa. If Nigeria succeeds at democratic governance, it will be an anchor for all of West Africa. Africa needs a strong Nigeria that creates good governance. Nigeria still has not created good governance. It's bad governance that's still there. Governance is a process of decision making and the process by which decisions are implemented or not implemented. In our Africa case, the not implemented ones properly on time to serve the people, literally they are void. What you have is those who serve foreign interests and also the corruption of the leaders who are actually running, who say that they are running the countries and the people, serving the people. Among the seven key aspirations listed in Agenda 2063, the Africa we want is constructing quality governance, an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law as a key to Africa's political and economic transformation is to is said to be the real uh, goal stated as one of the goals to realize the Africa we want by when we reach Agenda 2000, 100 years after the Organization of African Unity was formed. So the Pan-African idea that to realize these things, to construct such effective governance, is what has been declared. But declaring it, writing it, is easy. Practicing it, implementing it, not easy. But even though we have this, the Africa we want Agenda 2063, not sure whether it could be done. The key thing is for Africa to realize the rule of law, the 2063 Agenda 2063 Africa we want. We need the rule of law. We need transparency. We need responsiveness. We need consensus. All right, dialogue, orientation, equity, inclusiveness, effectiveness, efficiency, and accountability. We still don't have it. The principles that we need to have to construct a strong Pan African governance is making sure all participate, all are represented, there's fair conduct whenever there are people elected. Election processes must be clear and very, very well known, and no, uh, no cheating. Highly responsive, efficient, effective, open, transparent. Yeah, with regulation, the rule of law, strong ethical conduct, competence, capacity, innovation and openness to change, sustainability and long term orientation, sound financial management, not stealing, human rights, cultural diversity, social cohesion, all all our languages, everything. With this digital time, we can make everyone speak all the languages of Africa, even though there are thousands of them. Whichever we want to choose, we could do, but we don't have to exclude each other because of our diversity. We should use our diversity as our agency, accountability, and so on. Then, why governance is necessary? Critical that we need a Pan African governance for all African citizens to have trust in institutions, all right, in leadership, all right, and in the system that is built. We need social cohesion. Even though we have differences, our differences should not divide us. Our differences should not be a reason to fight each other and to claim one is has a better access than another. No, we should make sure differences is something we value to create social cohesion. It's the foundation for making sure that we create stability, security, peace, and sustainable development. It's also founded really, we need to make very good rules of law. But what is the governance challenge Africa faces? Many, many challenges we have. The states are failed states, most of them, weak states, externally penetrated states. External actors are still there. Even the way the states have been constructed, they were left by the colonial powers, and then the colonial powers left, but they put our own people in, and then eventually what happens? Dismal state is what was created. We don't have we have reached very weak human rights mechanisms, regional, continental, even local, proliferation of restrictive laws, even when there are in countries where there is rule of law, even there's a democratic governance, we still decisions, economic corruption, entrenched leaders, and the abuse of term limits. They don't want to, when they get into leadership, they don't want to stay. Some of our leaders have stayed over 30 years. Some of them, their age is nearly, some of them are nearly reaching 90 years. And they're still continue to stay. This is extraordinary. I mean, why we stay that long? So go for governance with restorative and rehabilitative justice. That is the African value. Our relationship, our respect, our responsibility, our repair, our reintegration have to be, we call them the 5 R's. They have to be completely connected in a very systematic way to create what we call to restore any injustice from injustice to come to justice, to value justice against devalue any of the injustice people have been suffering from. Restorative justice also serves as an alternative to retributive justice. No need to fight each other, kill each other, which views crime primarily as acts that violate criminal laws established by governments. And rehabilitative justice, which takes a therapeutic approach that addresses an offender's need for treatment. So we need a time where we can bring rehabilitative justice and restorative justice. Examples of restorative justice outcomes include restitution, community service, victim offender reconciliation. Restorative justice is an approach
We're just going to try and get the professor back as he continues with his presentation. Right now, he was just talking about how he arrived at the topic of constructing Pan-African governance and the issues at hand in state. I was going to just present one quote that I read during the week regarding the state at the moment with the African Parliament. And this was by Professor Lesiba Tiefu. And it says, "We are more divided as a continent than we have ever been. That is the reality. We parade this false solidarity in the face of great injustice. We have sit-tight presidents and presidents for life," which is just something he said now. I'm going to continue. "We don't criticize each other. We have been experimenting with liberation for almost 60 years now, and we are no closer to unity." It sounds like there's a lot of pessimism and a lot of failed hope as a continent. Until we get the professor back, I'm going to open up the questions and you could comment. And as soon as he comes back, I'm going to post some of those questions, pose some of the questions to him. At the moment, we have a question from Vuyogazi Nebe, which is an excellent question. She says, "COVID has shown how important multilateralism will be post-COVID recovery. How can African countries engage on that level to sustain development and reduce the impacts a lost decade of development?" And we have another question here, a COVID-related question. How has COVID affected this program in terms of design, monetization, monitoring and evaluation, as well as continuation? And those are excellent questions. We're just going to hold on. He says he's going to try and log on again. Those are some of the challenges of being live. I will continue again regarding Pan-African governance. In general terms, Pan-African governance is parliamentary formation, which was set to establish a common platform and secure development and economic integration of the African continent with full participation of Africa's people. I am also going to ask a few questions to the people that are asking me questions. I've got more questions coming through here. On an individual level, what are we doing as Africans? How do we attain this unity? At what pace are African governments growing and harnessing the fourth industrial revolution and digitization in education? That's an excellent question. Thank you very much. I'll try and get hold of the professor again. He's the one who's equipped to answer these questions. If you could give me a few seconds.
Hello, hello. Sorry. I'm nearly finished.
Yes. Oh, thank you very much, Professor. I'd already received a few questions and I was panicking because I didn't know how I was going to answer them without you here.
Okay. No, but I was just going to say Ibrahim Index of African Governance ranking he made from 2002. Cote d'Ivoire got 12 points. Morocco, Kenya, those with weak governance structures, DRC, Congo, Sudan, and a number. African countries are having big challenges because the governance structures in all the indexes they fall. So we need a multi-level governance, holistic, adding tradition with modernity. This is what we mean by Pan-African governance, decolonizing it, integrating it, making it people-centered, providing quality service for the people, not for the leaders, quality leadership, quality institutions, quality systems. That's what we want. That's mainly the kind of thing we need to do in terms of creating a Pan-African governance system. That's what we need. Thank you. I finished. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that.
Okay.
I already wanted to pose a question that had come through from Vuyo Kazi. She says, COVID has shown how important multilateralism will be post-COVID recovery, excuse me. How can African countries engage on that level to sustain development and reduce the impact of a lost decade of development?
Mhm. Okay. The COVID-19 current situation, what its impact on us is on Africa is very uh, negative in many ways, because what it did is it affects um, very much the relationships we are trying to build. We have the African Free Trade, all these things we have invented, but how can we trade when we are blocking? So it's very difficult to continue to do
Okay.
things. So the COVID-19 current situation is also making most activities to be digitally done, online, not meeting, not doing all the transactions that's needed. So it's affecting the economic aspect, and is very much affected. All right, and then it also affects the kind of interactions that we need to build. It also affects even the governance too, because it's not possible to run things very well, uh, because when you are affected by the COVID-19 distracted, but how would you also try to address some of the challenges and questions we need to address on the problems we have in Africa? So I think it's been a serious issue, and that's a very good question. Eh, How do we now think in this current COVID-19? What are the kind of governance structures we need to build to also bring in the address the health challenge, the economic
Mhm.
challenge, yeah, the political social challenge, the environmental challenge, all these challenges we face. How do we do them together? And also, how do we link the local, okay, the national level, the regional level, and the continental level also? How do we connect with each other? And what are our structures, or the institutions we have that can relate with each other to also collaborate rather than you know going competition. If they compete with each other, then collaboration will not come, which means when you compete, you want to win at the expense of another. That is also a problem. The other big challenge also in this COVID-19 time is also the kind of vaccines and others that we develop. For example, if you remember, Madagascar said they developed their own. Even they left the World Health Organization. But other countries now are sending different types of viruses to us. So, and then the virus level is not accessible to all. It depends on age and everything. So, because of all this very complicated situation, even we don't own, you see, we have no intellectual property to the vaccines to deal with this. And also, even if we develop something, it gets rejected by the World Health Organization or some all other external actors. Is very complicated. At the same time, on this vaccine, there are many now, so many pharmaceutical companies that are trying to make money out of it, and then competition is happening. Over 80 countries are competing on this. So when you have this kind of complications, it also affects Africa. So what we need is, as Africans, we need to contextualize things in Africa, find our own reality and our own problems and deal with it. In other words, in our continent, because of the way we are really gifted, blessed, because we are naturally, we have sunshine everywhere. So if you go to different places, the level of corona is not the same as the Western countries and others. So in this, our own scientists, our own people must also be working very hard to make sure that we actually generate something for Africa and something also even for the rest of the world. So there are all these things we need to do, but there's no to do them. We need to have the governance, the value system to collaborate and to use our Ubuntu values. There's an I in you, there is a you and I. I'm you and you are me. I mean, that kind of value, if every of the 55 states believe in that instead of conflicting, fighting each other ethnically and all the other ways that they are doing, you're seeing it, all these conflicts everywhere, in the DRC Congo, we're everywhere, Chad and Central African Republic. I mean, many conflicts are happening, and also in Ethiopia, and you notice this very complicated situation is happening. So when we are having a coronavirus, we're also having the political coronavirus, the division coronavirus. We need to get out of that conflict coronavirus. If we get out of that, we can handle everything innovatively to solve all our problems. That's my suggestion.
You mentioned something about the value systems and our spirituality. I wanted to know how, in creating this governance, how do we bring out that diversity, that knowledge, the spiritual heritage, in terms of building the system that you're saying we need to have in order to move forward, to develop economically and in all aspects? How do we make our continent an African-centered and anchored continent?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a very good question. Um, you are absolutely right. The, when the colonial system imposed not just um, a way to exploit our resources and our labor, in other words, it also imposed something on our what was created in Africa, the thousands of years of knowledge that was created. I mean, it's only 500 years, more than 500 years ago, when slavery happened. Before that, there was Africa. It was a long memory. Many people have done so many extraordinary things, astronomy and mathematics, physics, in all the fields. You'll not believe. I have I've taught a course in England for 2 years in a university. I used to teach a course called Ideas of Science. Then I developed a course on non-Western science, then African science. Ivan Septima, many people, uh, Black Athena. There was a book written on this. There are many things that we don't. You know what I just tell you? In none of our universities do we teach them properly all this knowledge that was created. No, not in the curriculum, nothing like that. So our young people, our generation, all of you, grow up without knowing what was created by our ancestors. So the mindset and the colonialism for the mind is what is a serious challenge. What we need now is that SIM card, that colonial SIM card, that software hardware of our mind has to change. If that changes, then we are in a very strong position to actually address any of the challenges we face. That is not a problem, trust me. But the problem is we have that challenge. But as you rightly put it, there's a lot of in the justice system. Just to give you an example, it is not. We need to be restorative. All right, associational, not individualistic, and we need not to be punitive and retributive. We need to be restorative and rehabilitative. In other words, if someone makes a mistake, it's not good to put that person in jail for many years. When that person comes out after jail, he gets even more bitter, and then he will want to continue to do crime. He won't get out of crime by that. When someone commits a crime, If you do a traditional, restorative and rehabilitative, non-retributive, non-punitive ways of dealing with that person, you could restore that person. You could change them completely. You could make them, I'm sorry I did this. Why did I do this? Whatever crime they commit. So in some of our cultures, it was traditional communities. When people commit some crime, what do? They bring them, all right? There's negotiation, there's debate, and they get to accept the mistake, and whatever it is that they do, then they need to apologize, and whatever damage they make, maybe some payment they have to do. Even the community can raise funds and something and support whoever is hurt. So the hurter and the hurt can become friends, re-engage rather than the other way around. You see, now we have a different situation. What we have is a completely, the value system is completely wrong. We have become too individualistic. We still, I mean, recently I was there was in Malawi, there was a big delegation that came from government, university, and industry, and I was with them for a whole day. When I left an Hatfield mall, some two guys came and then they really, I was scared they're going to hit me, but they took my mobile phone. And now my Facebook, everything was hacked. Now I'm trying to restore it. I mean, it happens like that. All I'm simply saying to you is that we shouldn't be in this situation where people can can just treat you like that. No, 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 no. They shouldn't be. We should be completely different. That value has to change. Our values, the ancient values, the traditional values, the all the system as I just mentioned to you, the knowledge, the spirituality, everything that's very good. We should recognize it, appreciate it, and apply it, and not just copy from outside. You see, from all external actors that come and impose something on us, we shouldn't follow the state system. Everything, we still have francophone, anglophone, lusophone, levantine phone, all these kind of crazy things. We shouldn't be following that like that. Even we're divided like that. You see, that division we should end it by saying let's value our traditional, and then the values from our tradition. There may be some may will not be acceptable, but the ones that are good, in other words, that are really that create justice, governance, leadership qualities, all right, and system endorsement and strengthening. Those things we should take them together and then value them, use them, apply them, and make difference, a big difference for Africa. I think we can do it. In fact, but the Pan-African governance must not be a governance only of just taking copies of just from outside. It must be indigenized, contextualized. It must be the reality of ours. Also, the values that we have that enrich our connections, that make us all really value each other. In other words, better I hurt myself than hurting you is our value. If this is a great value, why would I steal from you? Why would I want to hurt you? That value is ours. It came from us. Ubuntu here, South Africa, is a great value, a great philosophy. That will not only save us, the whole world can be saved because there will be no war if there's Ubuntu. Yes, there's be one humanity, one world community can be created with a value like that. Because what you are saying is that I'm not treating you as a stranger, you're still a sister. That's it, or my daughter, whatever. We treat each other like that, not in a way that alienates each other, but that brings us together. That value is what we have. If that is the case, don't need to use money, value money more than you, and value weapons. All right, to we don't need army. All these things we don't need them. If we have, if we really value our great values, we will have a great, more humanistic, really relationships where everyone can be cared for and shared and care. Sharing and caring might lead to create us as one human community with our human rights fully celebrated, rather and ourselves, our unity, our similarity. All right, our differences appreciated. Those kinds of values is what we should create. We should go for. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that, Professor. I have another question that slightly diverts from that, but within, with the fourth industrial revolution and digitization, I wanted to know the state that these governments are pushing, the digitization in education, in our schools and teaching. At what state and what strides have been taken?
Very interesting question again you asked me. Um, there are two governance I mentioned to you: H governance, human governance; E governance, internet governance. So you see, the interesting question now is with e governance, there is still human error in it. You can get into cyber crime, cyber warfare. In other words, all the mischief you as you we used to do it in the human governance side might also be replicated, but be used. You don't use humans; you can use machines, and the technologies and digital, all right, means to do it. So the interesting question now is how could we change all the errors, like we just said earlier about the indigenous culture, indigenous knowledge, indigenous context, and the justice system. Many of the things that were created in our cultures will have been ignored, devalued, rejected by the colonialists, and then our own leaders now also copy the external actors. They never value them and include them. If we're, how can we also now? We're in the digital time because Africa has been a loser of the first, the second, third industrial revolutions. Now we don't want to lose the the fourth industrial revolution, the fifth industrial revolution. We don't. We need to make sure that the technology we use is with us and support us. And in fact, what we should do is learn how to value our indigenous values. All right, and apply this e-governance to actually facilitate, valorize them, all right, and promote them so that all the current organization stakeholders like the businesses, government, universities, communities, civil societies, all of them, NGOs, and all of them also capture them and apply them and use them. So what we need is a principle value. We may need a manifesto actually to actually say a Pan-African governance with applying e-governance, in other words, or E with H governance. But how do we manage it so that the more the H1, they make mistakes. They always are corrupt. They steal. They lie. They do many things. But with the technology, you may control a lot of these things. But of course, even since people are the ones that guide them, they may also inject some wrong information. They do the hacking, as I just mentioned to you, that happened to me. Things like that could happen also. But the interesting question you asked is that this technology, e-governance, can be combined with edge governance to actually make sure that the governance challenges, the bad governance that were imposed, it's imposed upon Africans, can be actually at least relieved. Not complete. We may not solve all the problems, but at least we can reduce some of the key problems, and from that learn more, and see if we can handle a way to remove corruption step by step with e activities, with technologically, by innovating technology to get rid of all this corruption that Africa has been facing, all these conflicts that we continue to have. We have not removed it yet. In fact, after this colonialists left, there was more civil wars, more coups d'etats, many things happened to us in Africa, and we haven't still, despite the fact that we say we have the Africa Union, we have all the SADC, many of these areas, regional organization, many things like that. Still, we are suffering. We still are divided. We're still fighting, and still we don't do proper elections. Many things like that are happening. So we need to get out of this. The more we do it and focus on this, the better, since we have everything. We have no problem as a continent. As a really, Africa has everything, and all we need to do is our people are also very intelligent. Trust me. The only thing is we need to also show them that they are. I mean, what their ancestors have been doing. If they know that, you know, uh, there was a in the ancient time. Uh, Before ancient Egypt was called Africa, the real Africa, and Ethiopia, Africa, it's called around that. There was a thinker called Imhotep. He was the genius of geniuses. I mean, what didn't he do? Astronomy, mathematics. I will you not believe in physics, in all the sciences. Number one, and he's acknowledged completely. And he's African. You see his picture; he looks like us, all of us. But the problem is, all these geniuses, nobody knows it. I mean, we read it. People like me read it because I end up uh, trying to read more and understand, and I'm just fascinated by what Africans have created. And I value Africans genuinely. I mean, but our own people, they don't believe in themselves. Their self confidence is not strong because they don't know this history, this knowledge. You know, the entire mathematical system the entire internet system that I just talked about, the internet world, the mathematical logic came from us, the binary logic mathematics from Africa. Even in the entire all this internet world, the mathematical system. In fact, we should be claiming the intellectual property for it, but we don't. We're not good at
Mhm.
that too. We're very weak. They can. What do they do? These other guys, what do they do? They are corrupt. What do? They know that there will be some corrupt officials from us. They give them something to deny the people in the country. So those guys prefer what they get rather than what should be given to the country and the people. We have a challenge. This challenge has to change. This mindset has to change, and that's SIM card and software and hardware disk has to be mended. If that happens, then everything will work. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Professor, this mindset changing and the value systems changing, these are the same people, the leaders have got the same value set, the same mindset, and this is knowledge that is being passed down to the youth, to everyone in communities. How do we change and pass down this information to the person in a rural area, for instance, who has got no access to connectivity? How do we get information across?
Very, very good question again. Um, there are two things we need to do. Um, the, the entire education system needs to change completely, from kindergarten to tertiary level. We need to have a system where all this knowledge, just to make sure that our mindset changes, that everything that is known and have been created in Africa, at least everyone is made aware of. For other people in the rural areas, in the current technology, even if they don't know how to read and write, they can know how to, all right, receive money, how to, with the M-Pesa, there's all this mobile phone we do. We can also create images with through images they see, even if they don't know it, we can show them systematically, and if we can even use the traditional societies there and the traditional systems, and introduce them systematically to actually do it, to introduce this knowledge so that they get to know about themselves. That can be done. But the elders, the religious people, all of them were the traditional, all of them, the rural in the rural areas they function, and the people always go to the these areas, the churches and everything. Then we need to systematically show that even they should also value and appreciate and recognize. Instead of preaching colonial mission church stuff, they should be really bringing out what was done in Africa, what was created, how did I just mentioned to you about this import and all this. There are many things that we could follow through, and then let people know them. I mean, they should be. They can still do their worshipping and they doing, but at the same time, there should be education. There should be lectures. We should all participate. In fact, our universities should not be going to Europe, America, and so on. Our staff, all right, our mobility should not be that way. It should be to the rural areas. We should be linked to our rural communities. In fact, we should go from the universities, our knowledge, we should share it to ordinary people. There's no reason why we cannot do that. In fact, when I do sometimes some of my PhD students, I tell them to do the rural areas in the townships, many things like that. And they have done some extraordinary research. Things like that we need to support and stimulate. We need to encourage also people. In fact, even the ordinary people, our own rural area people, they are the source of huge, amazing knowledge, but it's not recognized because it's not recorded. And it, in fact, a lot of very interesting ideas can be that they have can be used to generate innovation. We could also do that, but we haven't done it because we don't really link with them properly. That linkage also between those who are from the urban areas to those and the universities and the government, all right, and the industry must also be linked with them. And also, this new technology is very, very good because even if you don't know how to read and write, you know how to mobile do a mobile phone. You can tell people just remember this to, you can say to one of your aunts who is in the rural area who may not know how to read and write, you could tell her how Nyasha's phone is. You just someone tells if you call this, you'll reach her, and she calls, and you could communicate. You could even transfer funds for her. There's a number you need to give. It's a very interesting time now. The technology could help us or be against us. It depends how we use it. Even our own relationships, we need to also those who are in the universities must also link in the industry, must also link in government on all other spheres, link in the rural areas. The rural areas can be upgraded. The knowledge can be upgraded. The innovation can be done. A lot of the things they know. There's a lot of way traditionally people know. Amazing things they know, but we don't even record it. It's not articulated in some way. If we go there and learn from them and value it and recognize it, we can make them innovators and even generate intellectual property so they become rich. I mean, many things we could do. There's a lot we could do, but we're not connected very well. We're disconnected because we are connected in the colonial way. We still haven't changed that much. For example, if you are a university, what do you want to connect with? With another top university in Europe or America, but not to each other's. Inter-African university connections, I really have been struggling all my, I mean, you will not believe from 203, I was in KwaZulu Natal and I tried to see how we can create inter-African university linkages. I mean, connections among ourselves. That's not easy. People, I mean, it's not easy to make us all connect with each other. Although it's very, very important we do because we have, as I told you, we have everything. Our resources are rich. South Africa has 16 minerals, trillions, and DRC Congo is in a conflict always, but has estimated resources to 24 coltan, all these things you see, all this technology thing we use for internet, all that stuff is from us, and they have it's estimated 24 trillion. That's a combined gross national product of all of Europe and America in one place, which Franz Fanon called the heart of Africa. We have everything, but why will any African be poor and be a beggar? No, it's wrong. It doesn't go with the wealth of the country, the size of the continent, everything. It's against this. That's logic. Everyone should be saying now, why are we making this mistake? Why? Why? Because we have everything. Why, if we have everything, why our people are poor? And who is rich from our resources is something we should be thinking about. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor
I
Muchi.
finished.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything lost to leave the viewers with? Just say your final words in less than a minute.
We need Pan African governance. Pan African governance does not mean uh, just governance uh, for a group of people to run Africa. No, it must be a system that is inclusive, that also has strong values to serve Africa first. The priority, putting Africa first, is the priority. The priority of priorities. All Africans, the priority. Not go for ethnic and all these divisions. Our differences, we should appreciate it. Our similarity as Africans, we should celebrate it. If we do that, then we create a governance system that makes us as Africans to celebrate our unity, our solidarity, our agency, our African project, and as I mentioned to you, for us to address any problem of the past and the present and prevent anyone coming from in the future. If we do that, trust me, the sky is the limit. Africa will not only be the great resource for all of Africans, but the whole world. And we have great values, great philosophies, like, as I say, Ubuntu. That will not create, not only save Africa, the whole world. There will be no war if you have Ubuntu. There will be no military. You see, there will not be. You don't value money against people. For you value money to hurt others. No, you devalue money. You value our sisters and brothers. That is a kind of value we also have. We are rich in everything, in knowledge, in spirituality, in all the things we do. Our biggest problem now is that we continue to still suffer from the colonial legacy, and we have not come out of reached a totally post-colonial unity pathway, not yet. And that's why we need this Pan-African governance, Pan-African leadership, Pan-African institutions, Pan-African systems to make sure that Africa finally reaches. All right, the real time and era where it reaches out, where everyone will be living in a very safe way and caring way. I hope that will come soon. And thank you so much. I really appreciate your questions,
Thank
your
you
thoughts,
very
and
much,
everything you said.
Professor
Thank you. I really
Mochi.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time
Yes.
and giving this
Thank you
knowledge
so
and
much. Yeah.
information. I'm left inspired, and I definitely know you've inspired people who have tuned in and everyone else who comes across your path. So many more blessings your way. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Have a good evening.
Thank you.